So hello everybody, I'm Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, and we're continuing our series of bringing the spotlight on some people that make things happen in county government, whether it's elected official or department head, regardless of wherever they work. And today, I'm interviewing Nick Powell, the county engineer. Nick, welcome.
Good to be here.
Yeah, and before we get started, I've got some scripted questions, and I'm going to go off of them a little bit, Nick. And Nick is a very detailed guy, but really your job, when you say county engineer, it's not really county engineer. I know you're a registered engineer, and I appreciate that, but I mean, y'all do so much. Your department does so much, and so a lot of people may think, well, okay, they're the engineer and they go out and they help the highway department do designs and they go out and lay out projects and all that. It's really not that.
Right. We do a little bit of that in-house, but it's going to be smaller projects, so we do a lot of project management.
Yeah.
We take projects from conception that we have with the mayor's office and from other departments, and we kind of make those into plans, and we bring on design teams, and we really try to manage that all the way through construction.
Yeah. So we'll talk about Nick Powell a little bit.
Okay. So wife, children, wife is Laurel, 2 kids, Kate and Abby, both in Montgomery Central High School right now. I'm a deacon at First Baptist Church, Clarksville. I'm a board member for a few different local nonprofit Christian organizations. So that's where I spend a lot of my personal time when I'm not at work.
Awesome.
And just kind of keeps me involved and engaged.
Yeah.
So that's kind of me. There's not a whole lot of hobby time, so that's pretty much it. It's work and a little bit of volunteer time.
So you're not originally from Montgomery County, are you?
No, I grew up in Houston County and moved over to Dixon County for about a decade to start my engineering career and some of the consulting world.
Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
Went to UT Martin over in West Tennessee. Got a degree in engineering with the emphasis in civil engineering. So that is where my...
Came back and worked for the private sector first?
Actually, I started out in the Department of Transportation. When I came in out of college, 2004, it was kind of an economic downturn during that time, so the economically feasible thing to do was to go work for the Department of Transportation at the time, and it was a good career. It's a little bit larger government that started out in. Stayed there for a while and then went down into private sector with a couple of different firms and kind of really learned the details of engineering and how to design, and I think that's what led me to some of the experience that I had moving into this position.
Yeah. So when did you come on board with the county?
I've been here for almost 10 years now, for almost a decade. So
awesome.
A little over 9 years. It'd be 10 in August.
So when you came, was it the engineering department, just one person?
It was pretty much a department of one that had just been created and split off from the facilities and maintenance department. So it really was something to build from the ground up. There was not a whole lot of guidelines for how to build a department like that, what you needed, and we just slowly started getting a person here and a person there and still have a small staff.
Yeah, so you're 4 strong now, right?
We are 4 strong, hoping to maybe make it a 5th if we can ever hire on somebody else.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. So you've worked for the county for a little over 10 years. This is a question I've asked everybody, and I'm not going to ask you this because it's about what do you think that you've done significant that's made some improvements to the county as a whole. But I mean, you wouldn't quit talking.
Yeah.
Because you've been involved in so much stuff.
There's a lot to do, but I guess the thing that I've really focused on since I've come here is about just details and quality. There's so many people that we work with, whether it be a designer or a contractor. There's different experience levels, there's different personalities that we have to work with, so trying to just standardize that has been a big goal, because the more standard we can get, the more people expect from our expectations, and we do have high expectations, so that's something that we've really tried to focus on, and I've tried to instill in our staff is just, we're looking for a high quality of work, but because we're government, we have to work that much harder to get that quality of work.
Right. And I think one of the things that's important for people to know about you and the role that you play is that you're different from building and codes, and you're different from Parks and Rec, where basically the majority of their customers are residents of Montgomery County. Your customers are really all the departments of Montgomery County, whether it be the sheriff's department, whether it be the mayor's office, Parks and Rec. I mean, you kind of do work for all of
And
them.
we've got about 50 or 60 bosses.
Yeah.
That's how we talk about it.
That's bad, isn't
We've
it?
got 21 commissioners, a mayor, chief of staff, and all the department heads and elected officials to add to it.
Yeah, that I know that's tough. I know that's tough. Well, Nick, you work the private sector and you work the government side.
Right.
What would you recommend to somebody if they were looking to come into in the field that you're in? They were looking to come into that field about working for a government.
It's really personality type. I've enjoyed both sectors that I've been able to work in. I've worked in large government, small private, and now small local government. I felt kind of the local government was a good mix between the two. You've still got a lot of procedures and standards that we're able to follow, but you're a lot more personal in local government than what you are in a larger state government. So to recommend something to somebody, it's really about their interest in engineering. If you have a servant attitude, which is what you've got to have in government, you've got to have that servant mentality. It's not all luxury in government. It's servant attitude is going to have to be part of that.
Yeah. So, what does I probably know more so than even the people that are helping us put this video together. But what does a day in the life of Nick Powell look like at work?
So it's usually starting off in the office. There's always lots of emails, phone calls. You're pretty much going to plan on doing some type of plan review throughout the day, talking to contractors, trying to keep jobs scheduled, probably at least sometime throughout the week, a few times, going out on project sites, seeing what progress has been made. And there's always got to be a slot in your calendar for the unknown problem that's going to come up that you need to solve all of a sudden. So
or the mayor calling you,
or
saying,
the mayor calling you. Yeah. So swap things up. And switch it around.
Yeah.
Just being flexible.
But Nick, there's probably some days that when y'all are closing out a project that you're probably out of the office all day doing walkthroughs and doing all that stuff.
Oh, very much. Yeah. Some of our larger projects we'd be out a few days at a time trying to close out a project and make sure the punch list is there for the contractor to finish up. And we really try to cater and accommodate to the contractor's schedules the best we can so that we're not holding them up.
Right. Because
we have a certain aspect of time investment into a project as well that we have to build into the schedule.
Yeah. And I don't know that I can pick a project because it seems like every project that I know you've been involved with, there's always been another phase.
That seems to be that way.
But I will just talk about we'll talk about the shooting range. A lot of people don't know about it,
right.
But in the training complex that we're building down off Dotsonville Road for the sheriff's department. But that idea is conceived by the sheriff's department, and then basically it's coming to you.
Right. We've got to figure out all these ideas, and this is a multi-departmental project. First phase was for a specific division for the sheriff's department for a shooting complex, but that one has multiple agencies involved in it, so you've really got to get all that input up front for planning. We ended up doing a master plan for the entire site so that we could at least piecemeal and figure out where everything was going to fit the best. And then you're pretty much just working with a design consultant and trying to feed your vision and the department's vision into that consultant so that they can produce the nice pretty plans that will work out, the contractor can bid successfully and make happen. But
on that particular project alone, I mean, I know you had the sheriff's department, you have EMS, you have county fire, and then, there's the K-9 aspect of it. There's, in the master plan, there's a driving course down there. I mean, it's all these different things, and you have to bring all these ideas together. Right. And then you're not only representing EMS, sheriff's department, county fire, everybody else, but you're also facilitating everything with the design team that gets it to a point that everybody signs off on it. And then you're gonna build one of them.
That's right.
And so then you start that process, and it's all over again, because typically maybe the master plan consultant is not gonna be the consultant that designs it. And you know, there's not a lot of people in America that can say that they've been involved in the design and the construction and the facilitation of that construction
Right.
of a shooting range of the quality that this one is.
Right, this is a nice one, and there's always gonna be things that you're surprised on, that you would have seen through the project that you might have done a little bit differently. But you live and learn, and you figure out the best ways to do something along the way. The procedure is usually there, the structure and the organization for a contractor to take a project, bid it, and complete it, it's usually there. It's the details that matter. So
Yeah.
my wife tells me not to sweat the small stuff, but I keep telling her, that's my job, is to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we have to just keep in mind, is that, you know, there's no perfect job. You're always gonna have to accommodate some type of change throughout the project. I've not done a job in the decade I've been here that there's not some type of change order that either, you know, the designer didn't convey the right message, or we didn't convey the right message to the designer or the department. So you gotta be fluid and flexible, but at the same time, we're always out for looking out for the public dollar. That's one of the things that I instill in our departments or our staff, is as much as we can, is I'll protect the county dollar more than I do my own personal dollar. And that's just the mentality
That's awesome.
that we go through.
That's awesome. Well, and like you might, I may be wrong here, but I don't think I am. So we're in the IT department at Veterans Plaza, and right next door is VSO.
Right.
Y'all designed that in-house, right?
We did. We've got
Yeah.
an in-house
So
architect.
100% of that facility was designed in-house, and so y'all took it from there, put it out to bid, and y'all basically, you're there until the department occupies the spot.
That's right. We're their voice. We're the single point of contact for, we try to bring all the parties together so that everything is aware and taken care of along the way. We try to be their voice, and we try not to make them have to engage in the difficult conversations that typically come along with a project.
And quite frankly, with all due respect to them, they can't talk that language. You know, if somebody comes to them and says they need a change order, it could be Michelle Newell, our PIO, and they're renovating their office, and then she says, hey, we wanna change this door out, and it's $400 more or something. Michelle's gonna be like, well, what's it look like? Is it pretty?
Yeah.
You're looking at, hey, is it fire rated? Is it all those things? And so that's what I think is, the public doesn't know that, you know, any job you have, you're gonna have change, and something's not gonna be exactly like you thought it was. So y'all have to work through all of those details.
Right, and that's what we do. So that's what we're here for. That's what I hope we
Yeah.
bring good value to the county. No more than we would know what to do with veteran services.
Yeah.
They rely on us, or any department relies
Yeah.
on us for that specialty.
Do you have a favorite project?
It's tough. There's a lot of really good projects. I really like dealing with our park projects. They're big, they're wide open, there's all kinds of investment into them. What the public don't usually know about a park project is the spider web of underground utilities and all the stuff that goes on underground. It's a little bit more to bring together. Vertical construction is great. You know, we've got an in-house architect, and he really helps with that. I've got a little bit of background in that, even outside of my civil engineering world, but I really enjoy working on some of the park projects and trying to bring those together.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know that the general public knows what all y'all do. I mean, since I've been mayor, I mean, you've renovated old schoolhouses, you've built new courtrooms in the court center. I mean, you've added to parks. EMS stations. I mean, you just name it. There's very, very few sectors of county government that y'all don't touch.
Right.
And then, I mean, like the historic courthouse, you know, we just went through sealing the brick and working on the windows, and you're doing something like that over at the jail, and then you're talking about starting a study to renovate the old jail. I mean, it's just, list goes on and on.
It does, and we don't have expertise in every bit of it. That's why we bring in the consultants that do know maybe a little bit more about some of those things. But it's a procedure. So as long as the procedure is consistent, fair, and everybody can evaluate the whole thing, then we typically have a good project.
This may be a tough question, but what are some short-term challenges that you see in your role?
The short-term challenges are staffing that we're trying to get a hold of. Probably salary to go along with that, and I know that's being worked on, so that's only a short-term challenge because of the current economic market that we're in. The private world can go a little faster than the public world, so I think that's gonna end up working itself out sooner rather than later.
Yeah. What about long-term?
Long-term, I believe probably our long-term challenge is gonna just be our overall budgets that we can push toward capital projects. You know, we've only got so much revenue. You know that better than anybody in the county. But as we develop and we plan and we talk to all these departments about what their needs are, 15 to 20 years from now, it's gonna be really tough to meet those needs with the revenue sources that we're used to. The project loads are building. So in my 10 years of doing projects, if we're not able to continue to push on those type things, it's just gonna continue to grow and there's always gonna be a need. I don't know that we'll ever be able to fully meet the infrastructure needs of a growing county. And then if we did, if the county stopped growing for some reason, that'd be a whole other challenge that we're not used to.
You're exactly
so
right.
we're used to that wave that's growing, and we try to keep up with it.
Are you seeing anything with your projects related to supply chain?
Very much, yes, sir. It's the things necessarily that you wouldn't think about, and it's some that you would. So, of course, the computer chip shortage is certainly affecting us. A generator, for instance, where you could usually get one of those off the shelf from somebody's company just with an order, something like that now is taking 10 to 11 months. Roofing material, it can hold up your whole project because if you can't get a project dried in, you can't proceed to that next step. So there's a lot of features like that you really got to try to figure out from your vendors what's going to cause us delay, what is going to be a schedule change that we're not used to seeing on our normal projects. So very much the current economic situation is something that is a constantly modifying thing to
well, they're talking about Portland cement now being a big issue, and
I have heard that.
Man, there's not a lot that you build that you don't use concrete.
No, so that's the foundation of every project. So if that's beginning to be one of those commodities that are in short supply, you know, your whole schedule of a project changes, especially when you have more than just concrete floor and slabs.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're not building the building, if we're going out and just we're talking to Sally Burchett. And she was talking about Woodlawn Park and expanding it. Well, you know, there's sidewalk,
right?
There's curb and gutter, and those are all integral parts of a park. And you don't really think about it because they're not, you know, we're not building the building,
right?
But we'll need concrete.
It'll affect everything.
Yeah,
horizontal and vertical projects.
I think another cool thing that Nick has done, he probably doesn't think it's cool, but this is just the kind of the magnitude of what he deals with. You started working on a rekeying project.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that in itself is like a jigsaw puzzle.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, a really hard jigsaw puzzle.
It takes
like every piece is white.
That's right. Yeah, so, I mean, trying to just make something simple for a facilities and maintenance department.
Yeah.
To not have a key ring that's so big that it weighs down, you know, the whole side. Plus it's standardized, it's more secure. It takes time to go through it and coordinate and do all that. It takes talking to the departments because we don't want to be the ones that decide, do you want a key this way or do you want a key this way? So talking through every one of them, we've kind of done that along with the master planning to almost every department in the county.
Yeah. Has there been a project that's been not related to a contractor or anything? It's been a project that's just really been hard for you, that's been tough?
There's a lot of them. I don't know that there's one that would stand out that's more major than the other. I guess more recently, you know, when something is perceived as being wrong, the public can come down hard sometimes, you know that.
I wasn't
so-
gonna go there, you
Well,
went there. Yeah.
There's just some times that, you
Yeah.
know, you've got to produce information that's the best that you can relay at the time. And if it's not perceived well, then you've got to figure out a way to have that conversation so that the perception is right.
Yeah.
It is what the intent is supposed to be. Those would probably be the hardest projects. The other ones, you know, you're always gonna have a complicated contractor sometimes, and you just have to go down that road and figure out and do the best you can. Documentation.
I've been
is
in
key.
a couple of meetings,
Yes,
of
sir.
those meetings with you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, and just for Nick, I know he's talking about Rossview Road, and I don't even know what today is, but a couple of days ago, there was some controversy about our preliminary layout, and there was a house that has a lot of community sentiment attached to it, but a ton of family sentiment attached to it, and we 100% respect that. But I think as soon as we found out what was happening, we put stuff in order and in place, and we're working on it. You said it earlier, sometimes government doesn't work as fast as the private sector, but in a case like this, you know, it's not as easy as just going and drawing a line on a piece of paper. You know, there's design criteria, there's horizontal, there's vertical, there's all these different things. But, you know, hopefully we can get to a good resolution of it. And I didn't ask you that question to make you bring that up, but but because I know that, you know, projects are difficult.
Yeah, it's a process, you know.
Yeah.
When we go through preliminary design, that's what it's for. We need the public's comment on stuff like that, and that's what makes projects better.
Yeah, exactly right. So if somebody's gonna come to work for Montgomery County Engineering Department, what would you tell them? Why should they come to work there?
First, you've got, I think we need to relay that it is a servant role. But, you know, we've got great leaders, we've got great benefits, it's a good place to work. Voted best place to live for Clarksville, so, you know, it's got its great things that we have throughout the county, and just a good environment.
Yeah, y'all are a pretty tight-knit bunch too,
We
aren't
are.
you?
At 4 strong, you've got to be pretty tight. You really got to rely on your staff, and I'll tell you, my staff is what makes our department.
Yeah.
You can't do it without them, and you relish in everything that they're able to accomplish.
Awesome. So you're visiting one of our parks, and some couple pulls up and start asking questions about it, and next thing you know, they're gonna move here. They're thinking about moving here. Why do you tell them to move to Montgomery County?
Well, we're a great location, got all kinds of small town feel, but also large town amenities. We've got great natural resources here with the rivers and the marina, so just a really nice place to be comfortable and feel at home.
Yeah, awesome. I'm hesitant to ask, I hadn't asked everybody this question. I don't think I'm hesitant to ask you, because like when I asked somebody and if you could wave the magic wand, what would happen? Well, you're not gonna say that we fund every project immediately, because
No, that wouldn't be magic.
It wouldn't be magical for you, but
Yeah.
what would you do?
Magic wand. That's a tough one, because there's so many needs that we have throughout a county. To pinpoint one that would outshine the others, I don't know that I could do justice to my projects as a
Right.
whole to request the individual one. So, I don't know that I have a good answer for
Well,
that.
and you know, I think that's okay, but I think you hit on something that you spoke to it, and it's really reality, and this isn't about me, or it's not about the county commission, but you know, you've got this lineup of projects, and they're all needed, they're all wanted, but there's only a certain amount of dollars that can go with it, and so then, you know, you're talking about public safety, and then you're talking about Parks and Rec, but you're talking about maintaining what you got. what you own today.
And the more we build, the more we've got to maintain.
Exactly, and so there's so many factors that go into it. You know, we don't want to put off putting a roof on a building, but yet we may have to put it off to fund a park. And so, you know, those are the tough decisions that you have to make. Yeah.
Yeah, every department's got their priorities for sure for themselves.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
When the commission and budget committee have to pull together their priorities, you know, it's a tough challenge.
Yeah. Would you recommend a life in in government for somebody?
Sure. If their heart's right,
Yeah.
if they've got the servant attitude, it's a great career. It's a great place to be and call home and do your whole career.
So you're not a guy in the 7.5 years I've known you, you're not a guy to ever brag, boast, or anything, but it's gotta be pretty rewarding when you're riding around the community and you can look and you can say, well,
we have a little bit to do with that.
Yeah, that's gotta be pretty gratifying.
So that's probably the biggest gratification that we get out of our job is when we've stressed and worked so hard on a project for, goodness, 3, 4, sometimes 5 years, depending on the project, and it finally gets done and you're able to hand that over to that department for their intended use. That's when you get that reward. Not necessarily for any pats on the backs, but you just see the effort that you were able to put into it, and you've made it happen. That was the intended purpose.
Well, I've referenced Sally Burchett a couple of times, but she was telling us during her interview that it was a debacle her throwing out the first pitch out at St. B, but it's the largest little league in the state of Tennessee. And to look at that facility, and you've
done a lot of work out there.
You've done a whole lot of work, and there's still a little bit of area to grow out there that y'all are working on as well. So
they've got a sliver, so they want to have an intended purpose.
That's awesome. So I kind of stole my last question about gratifying, but it does have to feel good to know that you're a part of that.
Yes, sir, it does. That's it's a big benefit to be able to see a project well done, and the effort that was put forth into it came out and did what it needed to do.
Yeah. Well, Nick, y'all do an awesome job, and you're very, very methodical in what you do. And I promise you, the people of Montgomery County don't have a clue of how much money that you save Montgomery County. And you've got our interest and their interests at heart. And you know, you use this word several times. I hadn't said it, you said it, but you know, being a servant, I think you truly are a servant, and it's an absolute joy to work with you. I know when I asked you a question, that if you don't know the answer, you're gonna get it. And I know that if there's an issue out there, you're gonna shoot straight with it and say, you know what, Mayor, I think this or I think that, and you're not gonna beat around the bush.
There's no time to play games.
No. That's why I like you so much, man. So I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do for Montgomery County, and you're a good guy.
Thank you much.